So I'm here with Curtis at Classic Kurt on Instagram. Right now we're doing a interview style podcast. So with that, I'll pass it off to Curtis and he can introduce himself in a general summary if you'd like.
All right, so my name's Curtis. I am a videographer up here in Alberta, Canada. I've been making videos for about 15 years now. I kind of started in high school, so was kind of the video guy back in high school, kept being the video guy, and I just never dropped the title of being the video guy, apparently. So here I am 15 years later, still making videos, a little bit more on a professional scale. I also do lots of marketing. I own my own media studio, almost like a marketing agency, but a little bit more media based. So we focus a lot more on content than we do on marketing. I've been a marketing coordinator at a few companies. I've probably made thousands of videos. I've shot almost everything you can think of. Not quite everything, but almost everything you can think of. Yeah, I would say, what do I like shooting the most? I would say that I like the things that I like filming the most are probably documentary style stuff, or events. I like shooting live action things. I like capturing energy, kind of just trying to take the essence of a space and capture it in its best light or make it look as good as possible, and then kind of recreate those or like recreate that environment through a video component. So just really trying to capture what the environment felt like, and what the, I hate saying vibe, but trying to capture the vibe of the place that we're working with, and then recreate that and give it to an audience through a visual and audio component. So making videos. I just recently started, my new company is called Censored. Comes from the term senses. I'd like to think that we are trying to stimulate the viewer or the audience senses, to make it feel as though they were there, using only video with audio, obviously, for like music and sound effects and stuff. So that's, I don't know, in the shortest version, me,
Yeah,
you could say.
that's sick. I didn't realize that you've been doing it for so long, since all the way back in high school.
Yeah, for forever, man. Like, I'll give you a quick. So I could tell you why I started doing videos. I hated talking in front of people. I can't do like public speaking or anything. Like even this is kind of weird. Like just being on camera for me is not the usual, but I'm getting more used to it now. So
Yeah.
back we would do school projects and you'd have to like do a presentation or something, right, and stand in front of a class, and like, oh man, I just hated it. Like my anxiety would be through the roof. I was just like, no, this isn't for me. And then one day I realized, I was like, hey, maybe I can make a video, and then instead of standing in front of the class, I could just play a video on the screen, right? So then I'm like, I did that once, got 100%, and I was like, all right,
Nice.
like, all right, okay, I'm gonna do this again, and I'm gonna do this again. And then the teachers used to be like, you're putting so much extra work into it, like it takes you so much longer. And I'm like, hey, I will put in 10 times the amount of work as long as I don't have to stand in front of the class and talk to everyone. I'm totally fine. Like I can
And the
sit in the back and just press play on the computer and let it go on the projector, like, and I'm good all day.
And the thing is also like what they probably don't understand is um for us, like even though it seems like 10 times more work for somebody that's not passionate about it, for you that's passionate about it, it's almost easier doing that than doing
Oh,
what everybody else is doing and more fun.
literally, literally 100%. But the thing was, back then, like, you could say that now, but back then when I was doing it, like there was nothing on YouTube. There was hardly anything. And we just had like crappy DV cameras that you had to like re-record the footage on a tape onto the computer and like try to figure out, like, I remember using Final Cut and all these programs and like trying to figure out like which program was the best, and going through so many different things and like taking so many steps literally to just learn how to make a video. Whereas now there's probably hundreds of like how to make a video guides on YouTube that you can watch and come out with like something decent your first try. Like we
Mhm.
didn't have anything like that. So there was a lot more of a skill gap back then. So kind of once I dove into it and I knew how to do it, um yeah, it wasn't that difficult. Like it was hard for me, but it was like a lot easier that for me than it was for someone else to do it, because I had already gone through that process. So that being said, I guess you could say that I am self-taught on most things video. Um, you know, you could say YouTube education, but I think most of what I learned, there was no such thing as YouTube, or there was YouTube, but there just wasn't content on it like there is now.
Right. So how old are you now, Curtis?
I'm 29 right now.
Okay, nice. It's funny because right now I mean, I just finished the junior college, but, um, and so I used to be surrounded by a bunch of other people that were like 19 to 21. And then since I started the music video scene or started entering the music video scene, I started meeting directors and camera ops that were more like 27, 28, 30. And I noticed that I actually resonated and actually enjoyed hanging out with them even more than people my age. Just because as long as you find the right people, even if you're 30 years old, most people, like a lot of people will still act like they're 18. You know what I mean? And as long as you find those people that haven't let life just like break them down already to that point, then it's great.
No, literally. And the craziest thing you'll notice too in like an industry like this is like age doesn't matter. Um I feel like some people have it and some people don't. And that's just the way it is, you know?
Yeah.
In the most simple terms.
Yeah, I think I think that as long as you have a passion for it, you're gonna make it eventually. And as long as you believe in yourself, it sounds so like cheesy, but honestly, like if you just like shove in your head like I'm gonna make this happen regardless of what circumstances come my way, you're gonna make it happen. It's that simple, you know. As long as you're not trying, maybe not trying to be like Beyonce level of a filmmaker. I mean, or George Lucas. Like
Hey, one day.
as long as you're shooting for somewhat of a realistic goal, then I mean, the sky's the limit, or what's the phrase? Like there is no limit, really.
Yeah, there's no ceiling to it.
No.
And there's no ceiling to it, and everyone is going to be presented with completely different opportunities. So it's definitely a different career path where there is no specific path. I would
Mhm.
say like everyone is going to have their own path, and some people are going to move, you could say, quicker than others, but there's no like levels. You know what I mean? And like, and some people try to put levels on it and would say like, oh, this person's above me because they're using this piece of gear, or this person's above me because they're using this camera. But you can't compare that, right? It's not like something where there's like tiers where you like complete a test and make the next tier, or you graduate from school and now you have this diploma. There's kids who probably have never gone to school that I would consider are far more talented than people who have gone through years of school or who have worked under big directors or producers for years, right? Um, it's all super opportunity based. It's like what you have access to, who you know. Networking is like honestly easily one of the biggest things, right? Like what kind of skills you have. Are you able to talk to people, meet with people, where you find yourself, where you live? Um, People complain all the time and say like, "Hey, I'm not going to be big because of where I live," and I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I live in a small. I grew up in a 10,000 person town in the middle of Southern Alberta, and I happen to, like, I'm doing okay. I'm not like where I want to be, obviously, and I don't think anyone's ever where they want to be, but I survived. Right now, still living in Southern Alberta in a city of 100,000. Yeah, it could be tough, right? Like, I think people blame lots of stuff like that, but that's just not the way it is. I mean, you got to just look for opportunity wherever you are.
Yeah, I agree with you in regards to the statement of like there not being tiers necessarily as an artist because it's all relative, right? So like I could take a picture of I don't know this pen on the table and call it fine art, and then some people that have good reps might be able to make 10 million off of that picture. And so I think that one thing that, however, that stands out to me that represents another tier is after past the individual. I think that once you start building like a team and a community that works together, I think that's like the next tier that I'm shooting for right now.
Yes, 1,000%. And like that, I would say, and I can attest to that because like over the last year, COVID really made me kind of bring in a community. I think I always kind of had a community, but I never really looked at it that way. I was just like, hey, I have lots of friends. I have so many friends, and I have so many friends that make videos and do cool shit like I do. This is so cool. And then eventually I was like, wait, let's like bring these people together. COVID happened. Life slowed down a lot. I quit traveling. We weren't like going here, shooting this festival, going here, flying here, there, like all over the place, right? So stuck down at home, and I was like, all right, we're all stuck in home. We can't mingle anymore. What are we gonna do? And we had to find an online place where we could all come together and keep that community going, really boost each other. Because as you know, I would say another thing with this industry is it is a total mental game. Like you're on your own. There's no tiers, there's no guidance. You just like, hey, what's next? You're always wondering if you're doing the right thing. So that community, like building that community and having those people, and especially building out a team, really brings a lot of confidence, and it just makes you feel good. It's like having a therapy almost. Like it's
Yeah,
essential.
it's like legendary when you find somebody that's passionate in the same industry as you, but also more than that, more than their execution of the job, they're just amazing people. And you just resonate with them and just want to hang out with them regardless if you're working or not. And I feel like that's the real W's, is when you're like, because that's what everybody dreams of, like I just want to like hang out with my friends all the time and not have to work. Well, if you find something you're passionate about, and then you find other people that are passionate about the same things and they're like your friends, dude, you literally just get to hang out with your friends all the time and do what you love.
100%, especially because there's like when you're shooting, there's a lot of, I don't want to say downtime, but like if you're traveling, you're with those guys for days. And
Sure.
sometimes you're in the middle of BC sleeping on a double bed with two of your homies and charging all your camera gear, and you're sleeping sideways like hot dogs. Like you want those to be your friends, trust me. Like that
Absolutely.
that's a big thing. And also just like when you're in a high performance situation, working with people that you get along with, that you trust, that can just keep that going is a huge thing. We've had a few shoots like that this year where you're just flying. Like we're just like going. There's like no time to think. We did as much prep as we can, but it's like it's go time. It feels like a hockey game or something like that, right? Like I say hockey game, but you're in California, so that's the worst term. I don't know what sports you played or if you played sports, but it's literally like a high performance thing. It's like, all right, it's time to go, and you really rely on who your team is. Um,
Right.
and then having those be, I think a good team, they would become your friends regardless in the end, because you share those experiences together. But a solid team makes all the difference, and when they're your friends and you get to have fun also, like a ridiculous amount of fun, I think you're right. I think that's like when you talk about maybe tiers or levels, that might be like one of the levels that people look at getting at. I just don't think I ever looked at it like that
Mm-hmm.
before. I never analyzed it like that. I spent so much time working by myself and just doing it alone, and I did that for years and years and years. Because you always want more money, and you're trying to buy new cameras and new gear and pay for this and pay for that. And I'm getting older, and there's responsibilities, and like so you always want to try to make as much money as you can, but there becomes a time where you can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like capped out, and you're like, hey, let's bring in some people, make this enjoyable again. And that for me was like the last 2 years, I think. And
Nice.
shit just started getting a lot better, like substantially better. So maybe you're right. Maybe there is like a goal or like a tier to like get to that point.
Right. I think that delegation is so key, and there's pros and cons to this. Because pros, if you get five people, all masters at their craft, at their individual things, then that's going to be a masterpiece. However, if you are doing a team effort like that, and then you're dedicated as only the audio guy, then you get to miss out on the fun of the video, you get to miss out on the editing, the directing, and so on. And that is definitely something that you need to consider when you go up into another tier, or not necessarily tier, but just, I guess, I don't know, what would you call that?
I would just say like size of production.
Yeah,
Just
size of
like just like
production.
adding more production value, just like making things bigger, being able to like dial in each kind of area of video production a little stronger.
Yeah, because I think that I would love to get into bigger projects, because it's fulfilling to impact more people with your projects. And I think that having a team obviously helps that. But at the same time, I know plenty of filmmakers that are like, um, completely content just shooting by themselves for however long they want and just working one artist, one director slash camera op, and they find fulfillment out of that simplicity, you know? There's no
Totally.
like major contracts and stress over your head and, um, all these major concerns, because it's simple. And it's like you can do either nowadays. It's so cool, like the opportunities are endless.
That's what I love about like our modern day of filmmaking is just that things are a little bit different, right? Gear's getting a little bit better. You can reach a much higher quality in a much more simple manner. There's a place for everything. There's productions that need all those people. There's productions that don't need all those people. There's ways to do it for cheaper. Having less people, obviously, right? Like I think the classic film world is having a bit of a revolution going on, and like I know some people would hate me for this. Like there's like the OG people who are like, this is the way it is, this is how it is, and then there's like the young YouTube gunslingers coming in being like, I can do that with my phone on my gimbal, or like, I watch you I
The
watch
product guy.
yeah, or like I watch YouTube review gee, I can't even say this. I watch YouTube reviews that are being like, you don't need a cinema camera anymore. This Sony can do everything. And it's like, it can't really do everything. There's a place for each piece in the puzzle, and it just depends what gets you to your end goal the best with the resources that you have available.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I have a $30,000 red camera right there, and I have a $5,000 Sony A7 III, and I have a iPhone 11, and I use the iPhone the most, and the Sony more than that camera. But that camera has its place. Each piece has its place, just depending on what the deliverable is, right?
Right.
So that goes the same for production size and like your crew size and who you need and what you need. Um, I personally like to work in like a small tight knit crew environment, like a little bit more specialty stuff. So we go in a little bit more planned out, saying like, hey, this is what you're doing. Hey, this is what I'm doing. But I like to keep it small and tight knit because we can't always get a bunch of people to where we're trying to go, or you know what I mean. So say we go to do like a music festival. I got like 3 media passes. I don't have
Yeah.
10 media passes, and I don't need all this, and the budget's just not there for that, right?
Right.
Or like three of us are all fitting into a side by side, and we're traveling through the mountains of BC trying to film these off road vehicles. There's no time and there's no room for more people and more gear. Like that's like we're already pressed to the max as it is, trying to make like the highest quality piece we can. So that's why I focus on just like specialty equipment and jobs.
Yeah. I like that. You're in a situation where obviously you're not in the biggest city, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you were saying, since there's not access to 1,000 filmmakers, like in LA, for example, it's just a different game, you know? Like right
Yep.
now, right now I'm contemplating moving to LA, or I have absolutely contemplated moving to LA just because I'm already so close. Um, I'm like, I mean, you can drive there from here, and so, um, the thing is, I know I could do it, and I would just break even on my budget every single month, and that would be like a starving artist kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really what I want, you know? Like, I'd rather. I was talking with my friend Mason about this. He's also like, I think 27, but he's going steady, not slow and steady, fast and steady, but he's working hard, but he's not getting, he's patient,
Yeah, yeah.
and um, he's talking about how like we should just focus on becoming the best filmmaking or music video production team in Sonoma County, which is the county I'm in,
Yeah.
and then focus on in the Bay Area near San Francisco, and then eventually jump into LA. You know what I mean? And so there's so many different ways you can go about it, and I've heard stories of people that are like, "Oh no, just go over there right now. Your growth is just going to skyrocket." And I don't know, there's so many different routes you can take. It's hard to choose, but right now where I'm at, since I do need to build up more of my music video portfolio, I only have like 3 videos on my website right now, and then I have like 2 in the works. And so I'm still building up the portfolio, but once I feel like I've drained the opportunity out of the Bay Area, I'll move forward and consider.
100%. Like, here's something that someone said to me that stuck with me a lot. Because I'm in a similar situation but smaller. So
Right,
I'm in a town of 100,000. Small opportunity in terms of like like music industry, like nothing, right? Like
right.
there's nothing here. But so then 2 hours away, there's a big city called Calgary. You
Mm-hmm.
know, all the tours go through Calgary, shows go through Calgary, movies get filmed in Calgary. Calgary is like, I'm not gonna say Canada's LA because like Vancouver's probably like that, but Calgary's like would be the step up, right?
Right.
Um, would you rather be the big fish in the little sea,
Yeah.
or would you rather be the little fish in the big sea?
Right.
And you have to figure that out. And I would say like, yeah, you're right. Some people say fuck it. I'm tossing everything away. I'm going to LA. I'm gonna make this happen. And like, yeah, they might make that happen. I think there's a shitload of people that don't make that happen, and you don't see those stories. You only see the success stories.
Right.
But it depends on your situation, right? Because if you have opportunity where you're at now, and where you're at is the opportunities easier, and you can like build that foundation, because that foundation's easily the most important piece, right? If you
Right.
can build that foundation where you are, then build that foundation and then take it and move, or start to expand, right? Like, so for instance, I'm in Lethbridge. I have really good clients in Lethbridge. My business does really well here. My business has grown every year for the last 10 years. I could say fuck it and leave everything and go to Calgary and try and make this happen. But how many other people like me are there in Calgary making this happen? Whereas here in Lethbridge, I'm established. My business is doing good. My business is growing. What's that risk I'm willing to take? Like, I don't know. And I'm going to take a piece of both. Frankly, I'm doing this and I'm moving up there to do that stuff. I'm going to do both. And that's what I would say. But the big thing is just, yeah, would you rather be the big fish in the little sea or the little fish in the big sea? Right? And
Yeah.
it's just, it's like, again, everything's opportunity based though. Like, if you have opportunities right now where you're at to grow, like, take those and just run with them. Like, just like make what you can, because you're not guaranteed to have that anywhere else. If you have no opportunity where you're at and you're literally just sitting there twiddling your thumbs wishing that you were doing more, then yeah, go for it. Go try and do something else, right?
Yeah, I think that where I'm at right now with picking my work is I basically my mindset changed when I looked through some comments on the YouTuber YC Imaging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of him,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
he's a filmmaker that pretty much specializes in education for those people with the Canon T6i $500, bodies. Obviously, he works with much more than that, but he's kind of like the introductory channel for like anybody that's like, I want to try it, but I don't have the equipment. And then he's like, actually, you can with just a little bit of this, this, and this, you can make it happen. And so he's got that going on for him. And then he's got his music videos. And I was always so confused why he had this YouTube channel with I think a million followers or subscribers now. Maybe it's like 500,000, something like that. But I was so surprised that he wasn't like blowing up with music video jobs like all the time. And I think, and this isn't a bash to him, but as after he posted a video explaining why he took a break from music videos, a lot of the people in the comments said that the reason why he was feeling down about not getting success with the videos, because he's also probably your age too. Like he probably started 10 years ago. He got really good success with his start stuff, and now he's talking about how the competition is so crazy, blah 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 blah. And a few of the comments kind of stated like the blunt truth to me. And it could not, I mean, he could totally prove me wrong, but what I'm getting at is the musicians he's working with. I'm not sure if by working with your local musicians for too long, unless you really, really believe in them, it's the best route. Because for me, even though there's a lot of musicians around me, I'm only working with the musicians that I believe in, like I know are gonna succeed. I know I believe in their music. I know what they're capable of, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And with that, obviously there's different ideas of why you would choose your project. Because I might work with a musician that I don't really see going much farther, but they have beautiful music or something, and I just
Yeah.
love to do it for the passion of it. But in the term of, or in the for the idea of growth for my business, I think it's really important to associate yourself and try to work with people that you genuinely believe are going to be successful. You know what I mean? And so shout out to the Mystic Misfit and the Godly Untamable Youth Gang. I'm trying to hang on with you guys before you get to LA, because I'll just come with you. um, but seriously, like as long as I have like some of those people in my community, and I'm gonna keep expanding all the way to the San Francisco Bay Area. Like I know like a solid 10 people that I genuinely know are going to be going to LA in the next 3 to 5 years. And if I get my foot into the door with them, I'm dipping with them to LA, you know?
A
And
hundred
so,
percent. Yeah, you really have to think about where you're putting your time, right?
right.
And like what you're doing with your resources. So, like you said, there's different reasons why you take on projects. Some are great learning experiences. Some you believe in what they're doing and you wish them success. Some you see a great opportunity for you. So you're saying like, hey, these people, they're gonna be big. I want to, get my foot in the door and see if I can go in there. Yeah. And some have big budgets, and you're like, I need to make money right now, and I need to do that. So there's definitely an assessment like that with every single project, where I sit down and I'm like, okay, so what am I gonna get out of this right now? Like what's in it for me? Because as you get busier, you have less time. Like, man, my schedule is nuts. Like I just don't have any time, and I'm like, hey, where do I want to dedicate my time? And I need to be, a little bit more proactive in what I'm doing with my resources, and resources being time or money or help from other people, or you know what I mean. So say for such a small example, I have two dogs, and I need my parents to watch the dogs when I go do something. Can I get my parents to watch the dogs every day while I go ganter around the country doing all this, making no progress? Like, no, absolutely not. Right. So that's just an example of like a resource. I got to think about like, okay, I have help here and I have this here. How much can I do that? Like, I need to make X amount of money to pay my rent and to live this month. I can't just go make music videos for free for people because I might make it somewhere one day. You can do that, but you have to find a balance.
Absolutely.
Like you really got to think about your goals. And then like looking at things as to saying like, hey, which is this a step forward or a step backwards towards those goals, and like how far of a step forward is it? And then
The
that's why goal setting's the biggest thing you can do.
So the thing that comes up to me is like sometimes it's okay to take the steps backward though. You know what I mean? Like even if
Yeah,
you even
if
if
it's
you're
helping you go forwards though.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. If you have the patience, patience is freaking key. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have patience and you know that you just have faith that things are going to work out, then and I'm not even religious, but if you just have faith and believe in yourself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like um so many opportunities are gonna come your way because I was talking, and again my friend Mason, he was talking about how, or just in general, there's art there's mute or sorry filmmakers that will turn down jobs just because there's not enough money in it. When I look into that artist and I'm like, dude, he's gonna be something great one day, you know. And
Yeah.
it's important to, like you said, there's so many
But
variables.
you have to consider where you're at versus where they're at.
Right.
Because for
That's
you might be like, yeah, for sure, but say for me, I might be like, I've heard this story so many fucking times. Like
yeah,
I
I
don't
know.
I don't care. Like and it depends on timing, right? Like I might have time right now to say, hey, yeah, like let's do this, and then next week I might be like, there's no way I can do this, right?
Right.
So everyone's in such a different position, and that's why it really does depend on where you're at and what you're trying to do and what your goals are at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to have that balance. Like, for example, I'm still doing commercial work. It's not
Mm-hmm.
shown on my Instagram, really, you know, but I'm still shooting for coffee shops for, you know, a few hours, still making a 500 bucks and getting their product stuff and stuff
Totally.
like that, you know? And so there's still like that balance that allows me to work with my
Mm-hmm.
long-term goals. But I agree, like if you need to, if you have those boundaries, you need to make rent, you need to have to keep that time is an investment too, you know, like that's time. Doing a free shoot is time you could be spending with family, you know.
Absolutely.
But constantly reevaluating your priorities is so
Yeah,
important.
that's and you have to realize that like balance will always change. Like you're not like I can't be like, hey, this is my percentage that I'm going to spend doing this, and this is my percentage that I'm going to spend doing this, and this is my percentage here, because that could all completely change in one day, one contract, one client. Like, I know I used to be a firm believer in like planning. Like, hey, I need to plan this to be successful, or like I need to set the schedule. And then I was like, no, you know what? I think the biggest thing and like what works for me is just being available for the opportunity to come. So like you have to be open that yeah, so you have to be open so that when an opportunity can does come or presents itself whatever, that you can say yes if it's there, rather than being committed to all this other stuff. I think so many of my jobs were last minute things like, hey, can you do this weekend? And I'm like, yeah, shit, like let's do it. Like, yeah, absolutely. And meanwhile, I'm like, there's no way. Like, if I look at my list, like, hey, which client am I gonna piss off here? Like, how am I gonna make this work? I just jump in. I'm like, no, fuck it. Like, let's do it and see where this goes. And
Right.
that has led to some of like the biggest and the best things. You don't know who you're gonna meet there. You don't know how that's gonna go. That could be your best video yet. That could take you to your next level. You just don't know, right? So, like example, I'm sitting here today. It's Tuesday at 2:30, and I'm potentially shooting an 11-day music festival starting this weekend to next week. I don't know if that's going to go through. I didn't hear back yet, which I'm assuming means my quote was probably too high. And there's probably someone out there who thinks this is a great opportunity thing. So there's probably someone out there who this is a massive opportunity for them, right? And they're like, I will do this for like next probably like half of what I quoted. And good for them. But like where I'm at right now, I can't do that. I can't afford that. You know what I mean? I can't. I just made that amount of money in one day of shooting 2 days ago, right? So 1 day of work or 11 days worth of work, it's really hard to go like that. But that's our last conversation put into this conversation. So it depends where you're at for sure for things like that. But there's the thing about being flexible, right? So this shoot coming up, this possible shoot coming up, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. I would love if it did happen. I would also love if it didn't happen, because then I could go to the lake and spend time with my family and hang out with my friends and do all the things I want to do. But there's just a level of flexibility there about being open to things like that, right?
Hmm. Yeah. One thing that you brought up was like the when you give your quote to your clients, like you're giving your value that you believe you have. And recently I've been starting to negotiate a little bit more, not because I'm trying to take anybody's money, but more so just because I know my worth now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, for example, um, I I got hired to do a frat party on a yacht in San Francisco, and they were like, "Dude, we're just gonna buy you the ticket, and that's your payment. Free food." I was like, um.
You're like, I don't know.
And so he was like, yeah, like I'm the treasurer, like this is my first like big event. And he's like, how does that sound to you? I was like, dude, I appreciate that, but my daily rate starts at like 500. Like, I'm sorry, and
Absolutely.
I would love to work with you. I think this is a great project. It would be so much fun. um but that's my rate, and that's pretty much what the standard is going to be if you want good quality photos. And he was like, oh man, like 500 is a little bit much. And I was like, okay, well, here's the thing, like you can absolutely go to somebody that's going to do it for $150.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there are so many people that'll do it for free for the food, you know.
Yep.
But however, like you need to remind your clients, like you get what you pay for. And
Oh man, I have the
I,
perfect thing.
yeah, and so like I just reminded them, I was like, dude, I've done 2 weddings just over the last week. Like I've been doing events for a long time. I'm gonna give you
Let's
complete.
see. Oh, you can't.
Yes.
I can't see this.
Put it closer.
It says there's always someone who charges
Who
less.
charges less? Exactly. I'll pop that up on the screen. So yeah, so just reminding them that like you're paying me for the reliability of knowing that I'm gonna show up on time. I'm gonna get you everything you need and more, and I'm gonna deliver it on time. It's gonna be solid. I have a portfolio, reliable, right? People choose the most reliable option, not always the best option for the actual quality of the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and so after that, he was like, I don't think we have that in our budget, but I was like, okay, that's totally cool. Like, if you find that in the budget somewhere, I'm thinking like, dude, this college
You're
campus
like
is
never.
fine. It was like Chico. I don't know if you've heard it, but
I don't know anything about that shit.
it's a campus in California, and they're
Okay.
they're fine. And so I was like, if you can find it in the budget, I would love to shoot it. Calls me back 45 minutes later. He's like, we're good. We can do this.
He's like
I
he,
was
he's
like,
like he's like yeah, me and my friends can scrape this together. We can just not
yeah,
buy a few bottles and just do this instead.
yeah. And even further than that, bro, I was like, I'm gonna just see if my friend that's also a photographer can come, because I
Yeah.
mean, going to a frat party,
They're like, all
like
right, might
that.
as well make it fun.
So legit, I was like, all right, so I really could use a second photographer. Really would help me, like ensure that I'm gonna get everything I need. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna check if it's in the budget. If that's what you need, I'll look into it.
He's like, yeah,
And sure enough, he ended up letting my buddy come in. He paid for the ticket, and that was starting off from free food to two like $300 tickets on a yacht plus the $500 payment.
totally.
And it just worked out so smoothly. But just having that confidence in yourself and learning how to say no, especially,
Oh
is
man.
so key.
Yeah, you can really save yourself that way, and that's like that's coming down to thinking about like what you're, or like not even what, but like who your ideal client is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that guy comes, if he's like, no, there's no way, then it's like, yeah, okay, you're not my ideal client. But if he comes back and he's like, okay, yeah, you know what, like let's make this work because I value you. Now you're building that relationship, and that's there a little stronger.
True, true,
Like,
true.
but I mean, like, I don't know, man. I've done stuff like I've gone to a music festival to shoot something for free when like, hey, my day rate is $1,000 a day, and they're saying, hey, do you want to like come and do this music festival, shoot this job? We don't have any money, and I'm looking at it as I'm like, yeah, opportunity based. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it. That's where I meet the one of the biggest artists that I've shot for and like know and work with, and boom, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's networking, and then I do that and then turn around and something turns into money later from a situation like that and it pays off.
Yeah.
But that's again looking at your ideal client, like trying to figure out this person and like the relationship there and saying like, hey, what am I going to get out of this in the long run, or like what am I looking for out of this type of relationship?
Yeah.
Do they have my back? Are they going to put me on? Am I going to get the credit that I'm doing for this? Like that, what's that situation? And there's a bit of risk that comes with that too, though. I mean, I've got fucking burned, like, and I wasted a lot of time with on people and in situations like that where I get absolutely nothing. But then in my opinion, that's up to me to take that into a learning experience and say like, hey, what can I learn from this now? You know, like what can
Mm-hmm.
I take away from this?
Yeah, absolutely. In regards to the path you've chosen with events,
Yeah,
I've found that it limits my creativity because you have to surrender to a lot of situations that are out of your control. What's your input on that, and why do you still feel like you are fulfilled by doing that?
because I love that shit. I love the out of control part aspect
Mm-hmm.
of it. That's my favorite part, man. I love trying to make the best thing I can make out of the situation that I have in front of me. I think that's what I'm good at, and I think that's why I'm successful at what I do. I
Mm-hmm.
think I can do that, and a lot of people would die doing that. Like I think some people look at what I do and they're like, "Oh, I could make that," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, like let's
Yeah.
let's see it. Like let's see it. You have 1 hour and you're shooting raw clips, photos, and you're gonna make a recap, and it needs to be dope as fuck because every other kid out here is trying to do this. You know what I mean? And you're doing it for $250.
Right.
I love that. I just love the pressure of it. I think that like the more out of control it is, the happier I am at the end. Like just the feeling of like being accomplished that way is my favorite. Like I said before, I like more documentary live event kind of stuff. I think that I don't like to tell somebody how to do what they're gonna do. I like to have someone who just does it. So I'm like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
walk from here to here, and I'm gonna film it, and I'm gonna make it look dope. I'm not gonna tell you how to walk. Like if you're doing something like goofy or whatever, I'll just be like, hey, let's try it like this and like shape it a little bit. But I don't like that. I think that was like it's just stemmed from shooting action sports, right? Like shooting a biker and they're gonna hit this jump, and I have one chance to shoot this one jump and make it look as sick as possible. I don't get to say like, hey, let's do that one more time, but can you like do it better? Like, no, that doesn't happen. Like they might only hit that once, or like shooting base jumping. Like he's only jumping off this hotel one time. Like he's gonna go to jail if he goes back up. Like that's happening once. We don't get to do that again, right? And
So
that's the way it
true.
is. Like and that's I just love that pressure, man. Like that's my favorite, and I think that's why I like events. Just making the best of what you can make with what you have. That's just the ultimate. I don't know. I get so fulfilled by that. I don't want more control. Sometimes I would like more control, of course. I'd like to change lighting and tell them to do things differently, but no, I just love that shit. Honestly, like I don't know what it is. There's something wrong with me, maybe.
No, I think that there's definitely a lot to appreciate in regards to just appreciating and being present um, during that journey of trying to make the best of what you can. Um, One perspective I got from my friend I think he's in shoot, I think he's in Chicago right now, but I asked him, he's a street photographer, and he was like, he's always shooting, bro, every single day, like at least one post a day, sometimes more. And it's so cool because it's inspiring, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, doesn't that kind of like separate you from just being present and just looking at the real world with your eyes, like just walking around the whole city like this all the time? And he's like, no, dude, like this is what kind of shook me. He's like, bro, I am so much more present when I'm shooting. I'm noticing every single detail of the city while I'm walking around it. And I'm like, shit, like I think I know what you mean now. Because obviously, like if you thought of my interpretation of that earlier, it makes sense also, but like it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, I totally see that. Like I don't even go to events unless I'm shooting them sometimes. I mean, I like to go. I think it's just like I just love the energy, man. Like I see the energy, and all I can think about is like, okay, how do I like capture what's happening right now? How do I take the whole vibe, the whole feeling, all this, like my senses are just firing off. How do I capture that and find a way to like take it and put it through a cell phone on Instagram and have someone else be like, damn, they like get the chills and they feel like they're there, right? Like I think that's my favorite part about that. So like you're just living in it. Like I'm experiencing it so much more. And if I'm not like capturing that, I feel like I'm just not doing it justice, for sure. Like I'm just wasting my time. I'm like, damn, why am I not doing this, right? So lots of the times, like if I am somewhere, I would just rather have my camera than not have my camera. For something, a good example is like a wedding. Man, I'll tell you what, like if I'm gonna be at someone's wedding all day, like I'm filming it.
That's awesome.
I don't like. It's not that I. Sorry, not to say that I don't like weddings, but like, I want to film it. That's just like I want to do this, right? And that's 30 dailies, and like I want to document things and I want to do things, and 30 dailies gives me that reason and that boost to like put my camera in my hand and just fucking film everything.
So let's touch up on 30 dailies.
Yeah.
Because you also talked about shooting with your phone too, and both of those
Yeah.
hand in hand definitely relate to each other. So give me a little bit of a summary on what 30 dailies is and what we're up to.
All right, so 30 dailies is a 30-day creative challenge for artists of any medium. Is to create something new and share a piece of your work every single day for 30 days. It's the greatest mental challenge, creative challenge. It's great for networking. The marketing aspect of it is amazing. Some of my favorite pieces that I've made came from 30 dailies, just like random day edits that I never probably would have done otherwise. I don't know, man. It's just like this incredible experience. Like it just pushes you so hard. Right now we're doing it. We're doing this around July 2021, which is tight. I've done it 3 times before, and I don't know why I'm doing it again. But things are just going so good, and I was just like, man, things are so good right now, and like, what would things be like if I also did this? Because I just know how I feel at the end of a 30-day challenge, and it just feels, it's like the most rewarding thing ever, right? Like, just capitalizing on everything you have in front of you at the time. I don't know, man. 30 dailies it's a riot. It's a fucking riot. It's fun, man. It's just fun. I don't know. I could go on all day about it, but
Yeah, I took up the challenge because basically kind of like what Curtis was talking about earlier, like we have to prioritize where we're delegating our time, and then sometimes when opportunities come up, you shift. You have to pivot, right? Well, so I have like a few hours in the evening every day that I dedicate to like having dinner and spending time with family, right? Well, I kind of have a little bit of flexibility there. So I was like, maybe I could just like, maybe I can do it if I just spend an hour eating dinner with the family. That's still a good amount of time, And then from 8 o'clock till midnight, I can just knock out some content. And the thing is, like, kind of like what you were saying, or I'm just gonna touch on why I feel value in
Yeah.
joining it. Um, I'm sure you are some at some level a perfectionist.
Oh
Not
man. Oh yeah. It's
okay.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's unreal, dude. I don't even
yeah.
post anything. I don't even share anything. I
Right.
have all these ideas and I don't do any of it.
So yeah, exactly. So 30 dailies really just kind of kicks you in the ass and says, post your shit,
Do
like
shit. Just fucking go for it. Like,
yeah,
dude, look what we're doing right now.
yep,
Like, we wouldn't do this if it wasn't for 30 dailies. Like, this is a piece of our 30 dailies content, and that's why we're sitting here doing this. Have you
yep,
had the idea of doing stuff like this for a while?
yep,
You were talking about it. You were telling
absolutely.
me about it. I've done shit like this before and I haven't kept up with it and I want to do it and I love doing it and it's so much fun and we don't do it. Now look what we're doing. We're sitting here doing it. Did we worry about it being perfect? No, we sat down 30 minutes before we hit record and we're like, what are we going to do, man? I don't know, but it doesn't matter, right? Like there's only one
Right.
way to learn and it's to do it. You can watch as many fucking YouTube videos as you want. I don't care. You can learn from whoever. You're not going to learn until you have your hand on your camera and you're editing every single day.
That's definitely a
Right?
very key point of learning.
You're not going to learn unless you do it. Like we're not going to learn how to be better at making these podcasts or what we want to do until we're sitting here doing it. And then we're like, "Hey, we could have done this better." Oh, you know what I mean? Like if we didn't have to put this out right away, we would probably be like, "Oh, let's do this again." And you're like, "Oh, I want to go buy a camera and a mic and like all this blah 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 blah," right? And it's
Yeah,
like, no, like let's just do this and put it out and move on and do it and grow from it and grow and grow and grow. Like it just gets the ball rolling that way. But yeah, anyway,
absolutely.
keep going. See, I'm so passionate about the 30 daily stuff. I just live in it.
No,
So
me too now. Like I'm loving it. Like to be completely straight up with you, if I could sustain 30 dailies for the whole year, dude, fuck it. 365 dailies.
I literally considered that like the first time I was like, oh man, I want to keep this going. And then I was like, no, dude, the burnout was real though. Like
Yeah, dude,
this is one thing I don't tell a lot of people about, but like, man, I fucking don't post on Instagram unless I'm doing a 30 dailies at this point. You get so
yeah,
sick of it. Like, I mean, you'll come around. The burnout is real, but like, whatever, man. It's summer. Take your August and enjoy the shit out of it.
yeah. I currently, like I was touching on earlier. So last night I had 4 hours of sleep because
Yes.
I shot Sunset, a photo shoot, and then I had to edit and post that same night. And basically, I really hold myself up to high standards. And it's not really high standards, but it's still, I just want to be posting stuff I'm proud of, which everybody does.
Yeah.
And so I ended up staying up till like 3. It was 3. And then I'm also committing to waking up at 7 a.m. 7 at least. Okay, here's the thing. So
Damn.
I said I was gonna
That's
wait.
so hard.
So I was also gonna wake up at 7 a.m. every day and then post by 8, just to have everybody hold me accountable. However, here I'll show you. Here's my alarm for today.
Boom, 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 boom.
7:57.
You're like, I need every piece of sleep I can get.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm just gonna get every piece of sleep I can get and then post by 8 because I literally told people I was like, I'm gonna Venmo you $20 if I don't wake
I
up.
seen that.
And that is exactly the same method as what we're doing right now. It's the accountability factor to it, you know?
Yeah, it's just making it's all those little days. It's like it's that day that's hard that you still do something.
Exactly,
Like it
dude.
doesn't matter that you're not up by 7. You woke up at 7:57 and you posted the story. Hey, that's better because if you didn't do this, you were gonna sleep till 12, waste half your day, be behind, and try and make it happen again. And that ball, and you're
Absolutely.
never gonna get ahead that way.
Yep.
It's the same
I
thing. It's making a bit of progress. Like, yes, we're posting stuff we normally wouldn't post, which for people like me and you, that absolutely kills us. But it doesn't fucking matter. It
Yep.
only matters to you. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like no one else cares. No
Yep.
one gives a shit. It's fucking Instagram. No one cares. It does not matter as much as
Yeah.
you think it matters. And that's what this will teach you a lot. I mean, even last night I posted behind the scenes pictures that I had of me that I've had for forever, and I was like, oh, I should post these. Oh, I don't want to post those. They might not like do as good, and like, what if so and so artist goes to my profile and like sees this instead of like this dope video that I'm proud of?
Right, right.
Fuck, it doesn't matter, because honestly, I'll probably get more work by posting pictures of me working. You know what I
And the
mean?
other thing is like we focus so much on what other people think of us, it stunts
Dude, it's
our
unreal.
ability just to even express ourselves and put ourselves out there. For example, the amount of overthinking that goes into Instagram is insane. Like just a year
Dude.
ago, I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna post a story of my breakfast. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that I, get the perfect freaking filter on it. Make sure that that single sentence is super captivating, and try to get as many responses from that as possible. And then later in the day, I'm gonna post a couple more things, but I don't want to post too much because I don't want to overwhelm people.
Yeah,
Like
they're
I don't want
not
to
they're
have
not
like
gonna go
four.
through. They're gonna skip my story, and then no one's
I
gonna
know
look at
I don't
it.
want to post more than like
Man,
five.
I'm
And
even doing
so
that shit right now. Like yesterday, I was like, "Oh my god, man, my story had like 1/5 of its reach," and I was like, "Hey, what am I doing?" And then I was like, "Why?" I'm like, "Hey, why do I care?
yep,
Who fucking cares? The people who want to see it, who give a shit, seen it. Like it
exactly.
doesn't matter. Like, dude, we're so silly, man. The way we treat
Yeah,
ourselves is like it's the most unhealthy cycle we could possibly do. Like
absolutely.
that we could do to ourselves. It's absolutely unreal. And
I
30 dailies will fucking break that
right.
by the
I think
end. Not right now. I'm going through it, but by the end, it will break the shit out of that.
yeah. So for even transitioning into like relationships and stuff, I always had this like fear that people would get like sick of me, and I finally realized, like, over the last few years, like, if somebody gets sick of me, then it's meant to be. Like, they're not
Yeah,
meant for me. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody wants to be in my life, they'll be with me through all of it, or some of it, whatever you know what I
totally.
mean. And so, and it completely applies to like Instagram too. It's not a relationship, but my relationship with Instagram, like, even if I post
And
a lot.
there people are attracted to truth and like
Truth,
honesty. So like when you're being yourself and
authenticity,
you're like
yeah,
putting, yeah, authenticity. So when you're being yourself and you're putting yourself out there like that, people like that. Like I
mhm,
hate talking like, "Hey, what's up? This is what I did today." Like, man, I hate that. But like I tell
absolutely,
you what, man, that performs 10 times better than my best video that I spent 100 hours on.
right.
It's
I think
frustrating, but
I
like
think sorry.
no, it's frustrating, but that's like the way it is, right? And that's you have to embrace that. And you're right. I think if people are tired of you, they'll not watch you, and then when they want to engage with you, they'll come back and engage with you. No one's required to hold your hand and support you on every single aspect that you do. And if you get stressed over the fact that like, hey, this thing's not doing as well, or people don't seem to be as into this, like, hey, maybe they just didn't see it. Hey, maybe they're busy. Maybe they have something going on. You know what I mean?
Right.
The relationship comes and goes both ways. Like
Totally.
they'll be there when you need them to be there, if they want to be there.
Right. The difference between being authentic and being the typical like corporate fake professional slash overly enthusiastic, there's so many weird artificial personalities out there
Yeah.
that we're at this point where like people can see through it, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that another huge benefit of being authentic is because, like we were saying earlier, if you want to join my path with me, I would love for anybody that wants to be a part of that to be a part of it. However, if you don't, then that's totally cool with me too. And the cool thing is, like, rather than trying to a act like a product with no purpose or like relatability, where you need to make an ad, you need to spend $500,000 to sell your product because nobody likes that shit. Like, it's literally a plunger. Who's gonna want a plunger? Like, do you want to be part of the plunger community, Curtis?
No. Not
No,
overly.
you don't.
Not
And
overly.
so, and so the thing is, like, if we can present ourselves as, and also it sounds kind of effed up or kind of weird, but like selling our personality also, be, and I'm not going to say selling, but putting our personality out there.
Yeah.
So more people are attracted to what you stand for. And the thing is, like, you're not faking anything. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just being yourself. And if people want to come along on that ride, then you're going to increase your rate of growth regardless,
Mhm.
because you're going to have more support. And that's kind of transitioning. I'll mention one thing. So like this hat, um, I want this media production company to have that sense of community, because I love making connections with other like-minded, passionate people and artists, you know? Like I wouldn't have met Curtis if it wasn't for this company, you know? And so AM, the abbreviations for its Ateo Media, kind of represents being authentic and just putting yourself out there and being like, F it, like, here's who I am. If you like me, great. If you don't, that's cool too. And I just love this community. And so that's why I made the hat, is so it's another symbol of having a culture in my community that I can continue to build. And obviously, there's other purposes behind the hat. AM meaning the morning, and rise and shine, our slogan, meaning rising up and shining like the typical, getting up and getting out of your bed, but also the additional meaning of rising past your problems, past your obstacles, and shining and flourishing even through whatever shit you're going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so my approach, rather than being a salesman, is just being, I don't know what you want to call it, but just a culture. You know what I mean? And
Totally.
so
Just being honest.
right, and so that's kind of my approach right now. But I just kind of wanted to touch up on that.
No, no, totally. I think that's really important. And like it's funny. Some people, and again, like what we said at the start, some people have that and some people don't though.
Right,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like some people are just natural leaders or like community leaders or like they have a network and they have friends. And I'm not saying it's not a popularity contest,
Mm-mm.
but some people just have lots of good friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the way they are. And some people are like that and some people do this. And I never ever thought that I was any like community leader, or I'm not an influencer and I could never care to be. That's never one of my goals. Or like lead a community. Like I don't need to be anybody or have any power or anything like that. But um, when I had my Curtis Hausman Productions company and it was like CH shirts, and I made these shirts that had a CH logo on them, and my friends wore them and we wore them to the bars and shit like that, right?
Nice.
And then I started a company called Always DTF, which was always down to film. And it was big
That's so
DTF on the
good.
shirt with like an always. And like all my homies, we all wore them to the bar. And like, I don't know, it was funny. And I never once was I thinking like, hey, I'm trying to build this community and I want to build this community. It was just like, it was like, yo, this is just tight. Like, we're just a good group of friends. So it's funny, like I've always guessed I've been like doing that, on like strategically doing that for my entire life, and then now I'm like, oh hey, like let's take 30 dailies and uncensored and build a community, because I see the benefit in it for everyone else. Not that much for me. I guess the benefit that I would get out of that is just like my own satisfaction of feeling good. Like I feel what's the word? Not like supplied. I feel gratitude. Like I feel grateful when I help other people.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel whole, and it
Mm-hmm.
like fills a gap in my mental health that I didn't even realize that was there.
Mm-hmm.
Necessarily, like I used to think like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need nothing. I'm good on my own. Like I can just like cruise. But then when I have a community and I'm like helping people, I'm like, fuck, that feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like that feels really,
Right.
really, really good. So that's kind of why I'm doubling down on the community side of things right now. Is just like that mental health aspect of helping other people, and then kind of what it does for me too.
I love that.
But it's funny, I never knew that I was doing that or was working on that or like tried. There was no strategic push. I
That's
think,
honestly even better. That's
yeah,
beautiful, you know? I
I
love
think when you add strategy to too many things, it tends to ruin it.
it.
You're what you do is you end up setting expectations, and what happens when you end up setting expectations is you're opening the door for failure,
Hmm.
right? If that expectation isn't there, there's no way to not meet it. Therefore, you wouldn't look as that as a failure. So like when you're writing out a rubric and you're saying like this is my expectations, and people set their I think that people set their goals wrong. I think people set their goals as expectations. Like this is my goal. I want to grow my community to this many people strong for whatever. And you don't get there and they're like, okay, they failed. Like what is that? Where does that mentally leave you? I think some people are better at dealing with that than other people. But you have to be a little bit more open ended than I think you want to be.
Hmm.
And I know that's a little bit different than I think what a lot of people teach. This is just what works for me, though. I like I flexibility, man. That's the biggest fucking thing ever. But yeah, it's that expectations that I don't necessarily like too
Hmm.
much. I think you got to drop some of the expectations. It's good to put them out there as to say like, hey, here's what I like and here's what I don't like and here's what I'm hoping for, and it's a solid way to communicate with other people. But when you put too much strain on expectations, even in terms of like a relationship, I think it can end up doing more harm than good in the long run.
Interesting. Um, I think that like one thing I wanted to touch up on was you mentioned that, some people are good for, not necessarily good for, but naturally have um, more of a community over others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that when I first started, I just felt, and this has been a feeling since I was in first grade. I always knew that I was different, and props to my dad for always telling me I was unique. And then even through middle school, kids being like, "Your dad calls you unique. You're probably special." But realistically, like I knew I was unique, and I didn't. And whether I liked it or not, I didn't fit in with the crowd. I always felt like the one kid in the group that just didn't belong there. And one thing, and obviously that kind of developed, and great. I'm very grateful that through like at least past middle school and high school, I started finding my people. But I think that's completely relatable to like the Instagram game, because even if you don't have that community, if you can just even like through the hard times of not having people, if you just can continue to be yourself and not change yourself in order to fit in any way or the other, then you're going to attract people with similar energy than you regardless. If you just keep
Exactly.
putting yourself out there, then more people with that energy is going to come back to you. And if you, and that also like relates to like you get what you put out. Like
Yep.
if
100%.
you're not putting anything out there, then how can you expect anybody to support you or be a part of your life? Like you just need to have that confidence. And I guess I'm just grateful that I've built the confidence over the years. But you need to have the confidence to, like I was telling Curtis, like fuck it. Like if you don't like me, then you don't like me. If you do, great. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're never going to build a community that's going to build that support system for you.
It's
And that's
ex-
kind of blunt, but
that's it though, man. It's anxiety, dude.
yeah.
Everyone has it. Like
Yep.
everyone has it. Everyone it's the way we live right now. It's the way we were raised. It's what we grew up with. We didn't have social media. Well, I don't know. You're how old are you?
19.
Yeah, see, so we're like on a 10-year different page. We didn't have social media through majority of school, right? And we had it at the end, but it's like are you measuring, like, people are measuring their worth based on Instagram and like all these stupid apps and shit like that. Like, then you feel worthless and you're like, I don't know, and you're lonely and you're like, you're seeing these people with all these friends and like they're being successful and doing all these things
Gives
you
me
want to
anxiety
do.
just thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly, right? But like what I think what I love though, and like there's positives of social media, and I think 30 dailies was my flex on saying like, hey, let's take this that fucks us. Literally, like, this is fucking me,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna fuck it, right? Like, but like, quite honestly, you're not fucking me anymore. I'm fucking you, and
Yeah.
now this is gonna work for me, right? So then now we're turning this around, and I think that in general though, like, that's the next movement, man. Like, the next movement's away. It went from like, think about influencers, right? Like, the movement went from every brand wanted to work with influencers. Then it was like, this shit is so fake and phony. Like, fucking everyone starts seeing through this. I don't
Yep.
believe in shit. I don't believe in ads anymore. Now all of a sudden it's user generated content. That's the biggest thing, man. Cell phone videos, reels, you know what it, like,
Yep.
TikTok. Like, look at what this is. It's no longer like, I don't care who this, but think about back before the social media was here. It was entertainers, it was movie stars and actors, right?
Whoa.
Then it was social media. People big for no fucking reason at all, except they had cool cars or they flexed their parents' money or something random like this, and then they got big. And then it was TikTok, right? But now I think this is transitioning completely. It's going to flip back the other way around as to like, yo, who were the micro? They say micro influencers, but I hate the word because it still has influencer in it. But like, who's the people that you can connect with in your communities? That's what
Right.
matters the most. And especially like, I could go on branding, marketing, building communities the whole way. I love that shit. But like,
Mm.
this whole world is flipping. And
Yep.
as more people become more comfortable with putting themselves out there and realizing that there's a community for everyone, the better it will get in the long run for everybody.
Yep. Gary Vee kind of touches on that a little bit. He's like, I always encourage people to follow their passion, and I don't judge on what that passion is. Like, if you find fulfillment in watching Scooby Doo all day, then you could literally make a
Oh,
podcast talking about Scooby Doo every single day, and you're going to be successful. You'll literally make a living off
yeah.
of talking about Scooby Doo.
That's the world we live in. But the problem is
Yes.
the circle that people are in currently won't support all this random shit like this.
Uh-huh.
You have to build a new circle,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Like, you have to like, and I've been working on that for a long time, like just posting what I want to post, and like going there and kind of doing that and being myself and attracting people and meeting people like you and whatever, right? Like, just by putting myself out there and by like talking, I'm sure someone will listen to this and be like, oh man, like, I feel that. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, like, absolutely. But there's probably going to be someone out here who's like, man, this kid's a fucking idiot, like, who does he think he is? Or, you know what I mean? But hey, that's
Yes.
not you're not meant for my circle,
Right.
right? Like, who do you surround yourself with, and stuff like that. I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I lost track, but I think we're just going in circles at the moment. But
No,
yeah,
but like how to build community, you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, it is like that. And I think you put yourself out there, like you were saying, like, if you love watching Scooby Doo or whatever it is, if you keep putting that out there, you have to say fuck it to the people that are there, let
Mm-hmm.
them leave to make place for new people to come in
Agreed.
and fill their spot.
And have the strength to be comfortable being alone for a while, because it
Yeah,
takes time, you
it,
know.
it's just gonna suck. It's like, I don't know, man. I've had Twitter for 10 years and I tweet to fucking nobody,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and I don't like doing it, and I'm scared to do it. So then I don't do it. But I bet if I just continued doing that, and had I done it for a while, it probably would have worked. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't
Yeah.
know, just putting yourself out there. But you just got to realize, like, everyone's in the same boat, man. Like, everyone thinks the same things. All of us creatives go through the same shit. There's people who you would consider successful that are feeling the exact same way, that you're like, hey, they probably don't have this problem anymore, right? It's the same thing. It's the classic, like, you think if you'd win $1 million tomorrow, you wouldn't have any of these problems. You would just have different problems, man. Like, might solve a couple of the problems you have right now, but you'll have new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just the way it is.
Yep. All right. Well, like Curtis was saying, we're going to do this again soon. So we're going to wrap it up today. But if you hung around for this long, then we appreciate you. And we're glad that you're in our circle. And we hope that you hang around for the next one. And I just wanted to send a big thank you to Curtis for support and the accountability factor, and just as a solid friend that I'm looking forward to talking to more.